He was America's quintessential TV father, the moral compass for generations, embodying family values, faith, and unwavering goodness on screen. But Michael Landon's carefully crafted wholesome image concealed a turbulent private life, marked by fierce ambition, multiple divorces, rumored infidelities, and iron-fisted control, a reality his 9 children had to navigate. So what became of the sprawling dynasty, left behind the 9 souls, shaped by both the beloved icon and the complex, often contradictory man? Welcome. You clicked on this video because you remember the man who felt like part of the family, but you sense the real story. The human epic lies with the children who live behind the Ponderosa facade and beyond the prairie fields. In this exhaustive, deep-dive documentary, we will tell the complete multi-generational saga of all 9 of Michael Landon's children. We will explore the lives of his adopted sons, Mark and Josh. We will delve into the experiences of the 5 children, from his long marriage to Lynn No, adopted daughter Cheryl, and biological children, Leslie Michael Jr., Shawna, and Christopher. And finally, we will uncover the stories of his 2 youngest children with his 3rd wife, Cindy Jennifer, and Sean. To bring you this incredible, sprawling story, we have gone far beyond the television screen and the heartwarming reruns. We have meticulously researched Landon's own biographies and interviews, analyzed the careers and public statements or deliberate silence of his children, and pieced together a narrative spanning over half a century from countless sources. This is not just a superficial, "Where are they now?" It is a deep, unflinching exploration of a Hollywood dynasty unlike any other. One built on a specific brand of family values that often clashed with the messy reality of its creator's life. Prepare to understand the full, complex, and deeply human legacy of the Landon name. Number 9. The first adopted son. The tragic echo, Mark Fraser Landon. The Landon saga begins not with a biological heir, but with a choice. An adoption made by a young, ambitious actor before the world knew his name. This first son would carry the famous moniker, but live a life largely on the fringes, his journey marked by quiet struggles and ending in a tragedy that seemed to foreshadow the complexities to come. Born in 1948, Mark Fraser Landon entered Michael Landon's life through his first marriage to Dodie Levy Fraser, whom Michael married in 1956. Michael legally adopted Mark, giving him the Landon name. Mark was already a young boy when Michael entered his life, and his experience was fundamentally different from the children born later after Michael achieved global fame. He knew Michael not initially as a superstar, but as a stepfather, a striving actor trying to make his mark. This period was before the overwhelming success of Bonanza cemented the Landon name as television royalty. Mark witnessed the early hustle, the financial uncertainties, and the raw ambition that fueled Michael's climb. Growing up as the adopted son and the only child of that first marriage for several years before the adoption of Josh, Mark navigated a unique space. When Bonanza exploded in 1959, his stepfather became Little Joe Cartwright, a heartthrob and household name. This sudden shift thrust the family into a new reality. However, Michael and Dodie's marriage was relatively short-lived, ending in divorce in 1962. Mark was around 14 years old, a teenager experiencing not only the upheaval of divorce, but also the bizarre reality of having a world-famous stepfather who was now moving on to a new family. Despite the divorce, Mark retained the Landon name and, like many children of actors, felt the pull of the industry. He pursued a career in acting, appearing in several films, though mostly in smaller roles. His most notable appearance was arguably in the 1991 television movie Us, which was written and directed by his stepfather, Michael Landon, shortly before Michael's death. This film was a pilot for a potential series and served as one of Michael's final projects. Mark's participation suggests a level of connection and perhaps a desire for paternal approval that persisted despite the family's fractured history. He also had roles in films like the cult classic Double Edge 1986 and appeared alongside his father in an episode discussing adoption. However, Mark's acting career never reached the heights achieved by his stepfather or some of his half-siblings. He lived a relatively quiet life compared to the intense spotlight often focused on the Landon family. His personal struggles, though largely kept private, were hinted at over the years. The most significant and heartbreaking aspect of Mark's story is its tragic end. On May 11, 2009, Mark Fraser Landon was found dead in his West Hollywood home. He was 60 years old. The cause of death was not immediately clear, leading to speculation, but the coroner later ruled it was a natural death, though details remained sparse respecting the privacy he maintained throughout his life. His passing cast a somber shadow, a reminder of the personal tolls often hidden behind famous names. Mark's scandal is perhaps the quiet tragedy of his life and death, lived largely outside the central narrative of the more famous Landon branches. The untold story of Mark Landon is that of the first heir, the adopted son, who carried the name but perhaps never fully felt part of the core dynasty that formed later. His life was a quiet echo of the complexities of blended families in the spotlight, and his early death serves as a poignant, often forgotten first chapter in the sprawling saga of Michael Landon's children. He was the prologue, a story of connection forged and then strained by fame and divorce. Mark's life ended quietly, a somber note in the family history. The next adoption during that first marriage would result in a son who chose an even more profound silence, vanishing almost completely from the public record. Number 8. The son who vanished. The mystery of Josh Fraser. Landon, following the adoption of Mark, Michael, and Dodie, welcomed another son into their burgeoning family, also through adoption. But unlike his older brother, who briefly touched the edges of the family business, this son's life would become a masterclass in disappearance, a deliberate and total retreat into anonymity so complete he is almost a ghost in the Landon family tree. Josh Fraser Landon was adopted by Michael Landon and Dodie Levy Fraser as an infant in 1960. He was just a baby when Bonanza premiered and turned his adoptive father into a global superstar. His earliest years were lived inside the intense whirlwind of sudden, overwhelming fame. He was part of the original Landon family unit, alongside his older adopted brother Mark, experiencing the move to Los Angeles and the transformation of their lives. However, his anchor to this world was severed early. Michael and Dodie divorced when Josh was only about 2 years old. While Mark was a teenager and retained a connection, however complicated, with Michael and the Landon name, Josh's experience was different. As a very young child caught in the aftermath of a divorce, his primary bond remained with his mother, Dodie. This early separation from the central Landon figure seems to have defined Josh's entire life trajectory. As he grew up, he made perhaps the most definitive choice for privacy among all the Landon children. He completely and utterly rejected any association with the public life his adoptive father represented. Information about Josh Fraser Landon is extraordinarily scarce, far more so than even the most private of celebrity children. He has never sought the spotlight. He has never given an interview. He does not appear at family events that receive media coverage. He has not pursued a career in entertainment. His life is a near total enigma. Even his current whereabouts and profession are not matters of public record, a testament to his success in maintaining absolute privacy. The untold story of Josh Landon is this profound, lifelong act of disappearing. His scandal is the complete absence of any public narrative. Why did he choose such total anonymity? Was it a reaction to the trauma of the early divorce? Was it a desire to forge an identity completely separate from the Landon name, untainted by the complexities of his adoptive father's legacy? Was it simply a matter of personality, a deep-seated need for a quiet, ordinary life? We can only speculate. But his silence speaks volumes. It represents the most extreme example of choosing normalcy in the face of extraordinary circumstances. He is the ultimate counterpoint to the relentless publicity that defined Michael Landon's life and the careers of several of his half-siblings. Josh Fraser Landon's story is a powerful reminder that not everyone born into or adjacent to fame desires it. For some, the greatest inheritance is the freedom to walk away completely, to close the door and live an unwritten life. He is the question mark in the family saga, the son who chose to erase his name from the public ledger. The children of the first marriage chose paths defined by distance and privacy, either through tragedy or deliberate choice. But Michael Landon's next chapter, his long and fruitful second marriage, would produce a new generation of children raised at the absolute center of his wholesome empire, starting with a daughter he adopted as his own. Number 7. The stepdaughter who became an author. Cheryl Landon. Wilson, Michael Landon's second family, began like his first with an adoption, embracing his new wife's daughter as his own. This daughter would grow up at the very heart of the little house on the Prairie era, experiencing the peak of her stepfather's wholesome image, but also witnessing the turbulence beneath the surface. Her journey would lead her to become a chronicler, an author grappling with the complexities of grief, faith, and the enduring power of her famous stepfather's love. Cheryl Lynn was the daughter of Marjorie Lynn Noe, known as Lynn from her first marriage. When Lynn married Michael Landon in 1963, Michael wholeheartedly adopted Cheryl, who was then 9 years old. Unlike Mark and Josh, whose connection to Michael was severed or strained by divorce, Cheryl became an integral part of the core Landon family unit for nearly 2 decades. She grew up alongside her younger half-siblings during the height of Michael's fame on Bonanza, and most significantly during the creation and run of Little House on the Prairie. Her childhood was immersed in the world of Michael Landon Productions. Little House, which Michael starred in, produced, often wrote, and directed, was more than just a TV show. It was a family affair. Several of her siblings would eventually act on the show. Cheryl grew up experiencing the intense work ethic, the perfectionism, and the charismatic leadership that defined her stepfather's professional life. She also experienced the warmth and affection he projected, the image of the loving patriarch that resonated so deeply with audiences. However, her teenage years were marked by significant personal struggles. In her later writings, Cheryl has been candid about a devastating car accident she was involved in as a college student, which tragically took the lives of 3 of her friends and left her grappling with immense grief and survivor's guilt. She credited her stepfather's unwavering support and tough love with helping her navigate this dark period. She has also spoken about battling addiction, another challenge where Michael's influence, both positive and perhaps reflecting his own struggles, played a role. Cheryl did not pursue a career in acting, but she found her voice through writing. She became an author focusing on inspirational themes, often related to her personal experiences and her relationship with her stepfather. Her books, such as I Promised My Dad, an intimate portrait of Michael Landon by his eldest daughter, 1992, and The Way I See It, a look back at my life on Little House, co-written with Melissa Gilbert and others, offer valuable personal insights into the man behind the image. I Promised My Dad, published shortly after Michael's death, was a loving, though sometimes complex, tribute, acknowledging his flaws while emphasizing his positive impact on her life. Her writing often grapples with themes of loss, resilience, faith, and the enduring power of family, even amidst turmoil. She became, in a sense, the family historian, the one who sought to understand and articulate the complicated legacy of Michael Landon from the perspective of a loving adopted daughter. Cheryl's scandal is perhaps less a scandal and more the inherent complexity of her position. The adopted daughter writing about a famous stepfather whose image was both fiercely protected and intensely debated, particularly after his controversial divorce from her mother. Her perspective, while loving, inevitably contributed to the ongoing conversation about the contradictions in Michael Landon's life. The untold story of Cheryl Landon is her journey from being the outsider stepdaughter to becoming an accepted, integral part of the family, and finally one of its most articulate chroniclers. She navigated personal tragedy and the complexities of her stepfather's larger-than-life persona to find her own voice, using words to process grief and celebrate the enduring love that defined their relationship. Cheryl found her voice through writing, becoming a chronicler of the family legacy. The next child born into this second family, Michael's first biological daughter, would literally follow her father onto the prairie, acting alongside him, before choosing a profoundly different path dedicated to healing and understanding the human mind. Number 6. The Prairie daughter turned scholar. Leslie Ann Landon. Next came the first biological daughter, born just as her father was transitioning from the wild west of Bonanza to the wholesome frontier of Little House on the Prairie. She would literally grow up on set, becoming a familiar face to millions, only to turn away from the spotlight and dedicate her life to the inner landscapes of the human mind. Born on October 11, 1963, Leslie Ann Landon was Michael Landon's first biological child with Lynn No. Her birth coincided with the peak years of Bonanza, but her formative childhood unfolded during the creation and iconic run of Little House on the Prairie, 1974 to 1983. For Leslie, the Ingalls family wasn't just a TV show. It was an extension of her own family life. The set was her playground, the cast and crew her extended family. Given this immersive upbringing, it was perhaps unsurprising that Leslie felt the pull towards acting. Like several of her siblings, she appeared on Little House. Her most significant role was that of Etta Plum, the gentle and kind schoolteacher who became a recurring character in the show's later seasons. She appeared in nearly 20 episodes, gaining valuable on-screen experience under her father's direction. She was a natural, possessing the same warmth and likability that made her father a star. A career in acting seemed like a distinct possibility. However, upon graduating from high school, Leslie made a surprising and definitive choice. She decided not to pursue acting further. Instead, she enrolled in the University of Southern California, USC, driven by a passion for understanding human behavior. She earned a bachelor's degree in psychology, followed by a master's degree in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University. She then went on to earn her PhD in marriage and family therapy from the California Graduate Institute. This academic pivot is the defining element of Leslie's story. She experienced Hollywood from the inside, had the talent and the opportunity to pursue it, but consciously chose a different path, one dedicated to service healing and intellectual pursuit. She became Dr. Leslie Matthews, a respected therapist, specializing in children dealing with loss, a field perhaps informed by her own experiences navigating her parents' divorce and the later profound loss of her father. Her scandal is again the lack of one. Like her older half-brother Christian and her adopted sister Cheryl, she has maintained a life of professional dignity and profound privacy. She rarely gives interviews, and when she does, it is usually in the context of her professional expertise or to share fond, carefully chosen memories of her father. The untold story of Leslie Landon is the story of a deliberate and successful transition from child actor to respected academic and therapist. She took the empathy and understanding of human nature that her father portrayed so effectively on screen and dedicated her life to practicing it in the real world. She represents the intellectual and nurturing side of the Landon legacy, proving that the family's talents extended far beyond the soundstage. Leslie channeled her understanding of human nature into healing. But the next son, the one who bore his father's full name, would embrace the family business with both arms, stepping behind the camera to become a prolific creator in his own right, often exploring themes close to his father's heart. Number 5. The namesake and the filmmaker. Michael Landon Jr. Then came the namesake, the first biological son, the child who carried the full weight and potential of the Michael Landon name. Would he crumble under the pressure, or would he find a way to honor the legacy while forging his own creative path? His journey would lead him behind the camera, becoming a successful director and producer who specialized in the very kind of heartwarming family-focused stories his father championed. Born Michael Graham Landon on June 20, 1964. Michael Jr. grew up as the direct male heir to the Landon throne. Like his sister Leslie, his childhood was defined by Little House on the Prairie. He spent countless hours on set absorbing the intricate process of television production from his father, who was not just the star, but the driving creative force behind the show. He saw his father write, direct, produce, and act a masterclass in multifaceted showmanship and wielding creative control. Like his father and siblings, Michael Jr. also dabbled in acting, appearing in small roles on Little House. However, his true passion lay not in front of the camera, but behind it. He was drawn to the storytelling aspect, the ability to shape a narrative and guide performances. He attended USC studying film and began honing his skills as a writer and director. His career path reflects a deep engagement with his father's legacy, but with his own distinct focus. While his father created broad mainstream family entertainment, often tinged with spirituality for major networks, Michael Jr. carved out a specific and highly successful niche in the world of faith-based and inspirational filmmaking, often for cable channels like Hallmark. He understood the audience his father had cultivated, those who craved wholesome, uplifting stories, and sought to serve them with narratives that resonated with similar values, but often with a more explicitly Christian message. His breakthrough came in 2003, when he directed the television movie Love Comes Softly, based on the popular Christian historical novels by Jeanette Oke. The film, starring Katherine Heigl, was a massive success for the Hallmark Channel, spawning a long-running and beloved series of sequels, many of which Michael Jr. also directed and produced. This established him as a major force in the burgeoning market for faith-based entertainment. He continued this success with numerous other television movies and series, often based on inspirational literature. His most significant recent achievement is co-creating and executive producing the highly popular Hallmark Channel series, When Calls the Heart, another period drama centered on themes of community, faith, and resilience. The show has become a cornerstone of the Hallmark brand, running for over 10 seasons and cultivating a passionate fan base known as the Hearties. Michael Landon Jr.'s scandal is again minimal. His career has been marked by professionalism and a clear vision. The untold story is how he successfully navigated the immense pressure of being his father's namesake. Instead of trying to replicate his father's specific brand of stardom, he identified the core values of his father's work, family, community, faith, hope, and built his own successful career by interpreting those themes for a new generation within a specific genre. He didn't just inherit the name, he inherited the audience and the ethos, becoming a successful producer and director by understanding the enduring appeal of the stories his father told. He is the son who took the torch and found a new, focused way to make it shine. Michael Jr. found his voice by building upon his father's themes behind the camera. But the next daughter born into this large family would choose a path reminiscent of her older half-sisters, a life lived almost entirely off the Hollywood map. Number 4. The quiet daughter of the peak years. Shawna Lee. Landon, born directly into the height of her father's reign as America's most beloved television father, the next daughter witnessed the peak years of Little House and the global adoration it inspired. Yet, like the daughters before her, she would ultimately choose the quiet path, adding another voice to the family's chorus of privacy. Born in 1971, Shawna Lee Landon was the fourth child of Michael Landon and Lynn No. Her entire childhood unfolded during the decade-long run of Little House on the Prairie. She grew up not just as Michael Landon's daughter, but as Pa Ingalls' daughter in the eyes of the world. She experienced the zenith of her father's wholesome image, a time when he was synonymous with family values and frontier morality. Like her siblings Michael Jr. and Leslie, she spent time on the set growing up within the unique manufactured reality of Walnut Grove. However, unlike them, she showed no inclination towards acting or working in the entertainment industry in any public capacity. Her childhood also coincided with a period when the cracks in her parents' seemingly perfect marriage began to deepen, culminating in their highly publicized and acrimonious divorce in 1982, when Shawna was around 11 years old. The divorce was particularly messy because Michael left Lynn for Cindy Clerico, a much younger makeup artist who had worked on the Little House set. This scandalous end to the perfect family narrative played out in the tabloids, undoubtedly impacting the children profoundly. Perhaps shaped by this experience, the dissonance between the public image and the private reality, the pain of the public divorce, Shawna, like her older half-sisters, Dana and Kelly, and mirroring Leslie's choice to leave acting, opted for a life completely removed from the public eye. Information about Shawna Lee Landon is extremely limited, indicating a deliberate and successful effort to maintain her privacy. she has not pursued a career in the spotlight. She does not give interviews or make public appearances related to her father's legacy. She has focused on building her own life and family outside the realm of Hollywood. The untold story of Shawna is once again the power of silence and the recurring pattern within the Landon family. She represents the third daughter to choose anonymity over fame. Her life reinforces the narrative that for many of the Landon children particularly, the daughters, the cost of their father's extraordinary public life was a deep-seated desire for an ordinary private one. Her silence is her story, a quiet testament to the complexities hidden behind the Prairie sunset. Shawna chose the path of quiet normalcy, mirroring the choices of the older daughters. But the final son of the second marriage would feel the pull of Hollywood, not in front of the camera like his father, but behind it, finding his voice in a genre that seemed the absolute antithesis of his father's wholesome image. Number 3. The horror maverick, Christopher Bo Landon. The last child of the long second marriage, a son born just as Little House was ending, and his father was transforming into an angel on earth. He would grow up witnessing the end of one era and the beginning of another, ultimately choosing to make his mark in Hollywood. Not with heartwarming tales, but with jump scares, body swaps, and buckets of blood. Born on February 27, 1975, Christopher Bo Landon was the youngest of Michael Landon and Lynn No's children together. His early childhood coincided with the final seasons of Little House on the Prairie and the beginning of his father's next major hit, Highway to Heaven, 1984-1989. He grew up with the image of his father, not just as Pa Ingalls, but as Jonathan Smith, the probationary angel helping people on earth. This reinforced the wholesome spiritual image that defined Michael Landon's later career. However, Christopher's childhood was also defined by the dramatic implosion of his parents' marriage when he was around 7 years old. He experienced the divorce and his father's remarriage to Cindy Clerico, becoming part of a newly blended and complex family structure during his formative years. He has spoken about the difficulty of this period and the challenges of navigating his relationship with his father afterward. Like his older brother Michael Jr., Christopher was drawn to the creative side of the entertainment industry. But his path would be radically different. While Michael Jr. embraced the inspirational faith-based genre that echoed his father's values, Christopher gravitated towards the darkness, finding his voice in the horror genre. He began his career as a screenwriter, gaining notoriety for writing the screenplay for the 2007 thriller Disturbia, a modern riff on Hitchcock's Rear Window. His major breakthrough, however, came within the found-footage horror phenomenon. He wrote the screenplays for Paranormal Activity 2, 3, 4, and the spin-off Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, becoming a key architect of one of the most successful horror franchises in history. He then transitioned successfully into directing, still staying largely within the horror genre, but adding his own unique, often comedic twist. He directed and wrote the clever time loop slasher film Happy Death Day 2017 and its sequel, Happy Death Day 2U 2019. These films were praised for their witty blend of horror tropes, humor, and surprisingly emotional character arcs. He followed this with the critically acclaimed body swap horror comedy Freaky 2020, starring Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton. Most recently, he directed the family-friendly non-verbal ghost story We Have a Ghost 2023 for Netflix. He was briefly attached to direct the highly anticipated Scream 7, but later departed the project. Christopher Landon's career represents perhaps the most fascinating engagement with his father's legacy. He works in a genre that seems diametrically opposed to the wholesome image Michael Landon cultivated. Yet his films often contain surprising emotional depth, exploring themes of family trauma and finding one's identity, themes that resonate with his own complex upbringing. The untold story of Christopher Landon is this successful rebellion within the system. He used the access his name provided, but built a career based on a completely different aesthetic and worldview. His scandal is non-existent. His success is undeniable. He is the son who took the darkness and turned it into smart, successful, and often funny cinematic art. Christopher found his voice by subverting expectations, becoming a master of horror. But Michael Landon's story wasn't over. His third marriage brought 2 more children born into the final poignant chapter of his life, beginning with a daughter who would follow the family tradition onto the screen. Number 2. The daughter of the final act. Jennifer Rachel Landon. The penultimate chapter begins with the first child of Michael Landon's final marriage, a daughter born during his time playing an angel on Earth. She would have only a few precious years with her legendary father before his tragic death. But she would carry his performing spirit forward, becoming an acclaimed actress who forged her own powerful path on television. Born on August 29, 1983, Jennifer Rachel Landon was the first child of Michael Landon and his third wife, Cindy Clerico. Jennifer, often known as Jen, grew up primarily during the Highway to Heaven era. Unlike her older half-siblings who experienced the chaos of divorce and the pressures of peak fame, Jen's early childhood seemed marked by a period of relative domestic stability for her father. Michael had found happiness with Cindy, and Highway to Heaven reflected his deep personal interest in themes of faith, redemption, and human connection. However, this idyllic period was tragically short-lived. In 1991, when Jen was just 7 years old, Michael Landon was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. He faced his diagnosis with characteristic public bravery, but succumbed to the illness just 3 months later at the age of 54. Jen and her younger brother Sean lost their father at incredibly young ages, left with only faint memories and the overwhelming public image of a man they barely got to know. Despite this profound early loss, or perhaps because of it, Jen was drawn to the world her father had dominated. She decided to pursue acting, studying at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. She possessed a natural talent and a fiery screen presence. Her breakthrough role came in 2005 when she was cast as Gwen Norbeck Munson on the long-running CBS soap opera As the World Turns. Her performance was not just competent, it was a revelation. She played the complex character for 3 years, earning critical acclaim and 3 consecutive Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Younger Actress in a Drama Series in 2006, 2007, and 2008. This triple win was a remarkable achievement, proving her talent and establishing her as a formidable actress, completely independent of her father's legacy. After leaving the soap opera world, Jen continued to build an impressive and diverse resume with roles on shows like House Banshee and, significantly, a recurring role as Amy on the critically acclaimed TNT drama Animal Kingdom. Here she showcased a grittier, more intense side of her acting abilities. Most recently, she has gained widespread recognition for her role as Teeter in Taylor Sheridan's massively popular Paramount Network series Yellowstone. Teeter, a rough-around-the-edges, pink-haired ranch hand with a unique way of speaking quickly, became a fan favorite. The role allowed Jen to completely transform herself, demonstrating incredible range and cementing her status as a respected character actress. Jen Landon's scandal, like most of her siblings, is non-existent. She is known for her professionalism and dedication to her craft. The untold story is her triumphant emergence from the shadow of not just her father's fame, but also her devastating early loss. She didn't just inherit the name, she inherited the talent and the work ethic, building a critically acclaimed career entirely on her own merits. She represents the continuation of the Landon performing dynasty, proving that the spark of genius could indeed be passed down, finding its own unique and powerful expression. Jennifer embraced the spotlight, forging a powerful acting career on her own terms. But the final Landon child, the youngest son who barely knew his father, would choose a path reminiscent of his oldest half-brothers, a life lived firmly and successfully outside the world of show business. Number 1, the youngest son, the private path. Sean Matthew Landon, and finally the youngest son, the baby of the sprawling Landon clan, born just 5 years before his father's light was extinguished. His life would be defined not by the memory of a famous father he barely knew, but by the quiet determination to build his own successful world, completely separate from the one that had defined his family for generations. Born in 1986, Sean Matthew Landon was the second child of Michael Landon and Cindy Clerico, and the ninth and final child of the Landon dynasty. His earliest years coincided with the final seasons of Highway to Heaven. He was only 5 years old when his father died from pancreatic cancer. His memories of Michael Landon are likely fragmented impressions rather than concrete experiences, shaped more by photographs, home movies, and the stories told by his mother and older siblings than by personal interaction. Growing up without his father, Sean was raised primarily by his mother Cindy, away from the intense glare that had followed his older siblings. While Jennifer felt the pull towards acting, Sean seemed to have absorbed a different lesson from the family legacy. Like his oldest half-brothers, Mark and Josh, and mirroring the choices of sisters Dana Kelly Leslie and Shawna Sean, chose a path entirely outside of the entertainment industry. He pursued a career in business, specifically in real estate. This choice is significant. While his father built fictional homes on prairies and television sets, Sean chose to build a career in the tangible world of actual property. He has become a successful real estate agent and developer, reportedly working in the competitive Los Angeles market. He has built a life based on business acumen and professional success, completely independent of the Landon performing legacy. Like the majority of his siblings, Sean Landon maintains a determinedly private life. He does not seek public attention, does not give interviews about his family, and does not have a public persona related to his father's fame. His scandal is the complete absence of one. The untold story of Sean Landon is the quiet triumph of normalcy. As the youngest child, the one with the fewest direct memories of his father's overwhelming presence, he perhaps had the greatest freedom to define himself. He chose a path of traditional professional success, proving that the Landon name could thrive outside the confines of Hollywood. He represents the final quiet note in the Landon family symphony, a life built not in reaction to fame or in pursuit of it, but simply successfully and privately on its own terms. The 9 lives branching from Michael Landon paint an extraordinary American saga. A story of fame's shadow, the complexities of family, and the myriad ways a powerful legacy can be inherited, embraced, rejected, or redefined. Landon built his career playing heroes, men of action and heart, a mold perfected by another television and film icon, who also navigated a complex family life. That icon was, of course, Sylvester Stallone. On this channel previously, we explored the dramatic story of Sylvester Stallone's 5 children. Did you know that behind the Rocky and Rambo legend lies a story of unimaginable heartbreak with the tragic death of his first son, Sage, the quiet lifelong care for his second son, Ciarjo, and the rise of his 3 glamorous daughters who now live in the spotlight? The full emotional story of the Stallone dynasty is one you will not want to miss. Click the video on your screen right now to uncover that incredible untold story. And as always, thank you for watching.